The Galactic Pet Exhibition was, without a doubt, the most prestigious event in the Andromeda Sector. Every species that considered itself civilized sent their finest companion creatures to compete. We are talking about beings who traveled 17 star systems just to show off their domesticated gas clouds. Yes, gas clouds. As pets. The things float around and change colors based on mood. Thrilling stuff, really. I am Glorvak Mendish, senior judge of the exhibition for the past 43 cycles, and I have seen it all. I have witnessed a Corvani present a singing mollusk that could harmonize in 12 octaves. I watched a Thelian bring a miniature black hole on a leash. Contained, of course, mostly contained. We lost 2 refreshment tables that year, but the creature received high marks for uniqueness. The point is, nothing surprised me anymore, until the human walked in. Now let me be perfectly clear about something. Humans were not banned from the exhibition, not technically. Their species had been part of the Galactic Collective for almost 8 standard years, and they were allowed to participate in most civilized events. The problem was their pets. Every single creature from that nightmare planet they call Earth had been classified under Category 7, aggressive, dangerous, potentially lethal to spectators. The list of banned Earth creatures was extensive. Their canines were prohibited after the incident on Veloria Prime. One of those beasts chased a Valorian delegate for 6 kilometers because, and I quote the human owner, he just wanted to play fetch. The delegate required 3 months of psychological recovery. Dogs were out. Their birds were banned after a parrot at the Nexus Station exhibition learned to mimic emergency alarms. 14 decks evacuated, 200 beings trampled. The bird laughed about it, actually laughed, with its own voice. Even their fish were problematic. A human once brought a piranha to a youth educational event. I do not need to describe what happened. I still get reports from trauma counselors. So when the announcement came through that a human had registered for this year's exhibition, every judge on the panel looked at each other with the same expression. Dread. Pure, unfiltered dread. What did they register? Asked my colleague Yentish Kaur. She was a Belvani, which meant she had 4 eyes that could each express different emotions simultaneously. All 4 were expressing horror. I pulled up the registration form on my data tablet. It says here, a cat. A cat, she repeated. A cat. Is that the one with the teeth, or the one with the claws, or the one that shoots venom? I believe, I said slowly, it is the one with both teeth and claws. No venom. Probably. Yentish made a sound that in Belvani culture indicates one's desire to be literally anywhere else in the universe. I shared the sentiment entirely. The human arrived 3 hours before the exhibition began. His name was Marcus Fenwick, and he carried a small containment unit that had been specially designed for Category 7 creatures. The unit was reinforced with triple-layered force fields, biohazard warnings, and what appeared to be emergency sedation ports. Inside the unit sat the cat. I had seen images of cats before, of course. Every judge was required to study Earth fauna as part of our hazard training, but seeing one in person was different. The creature was approximately 4 kilograms of orange and white fur, with a flat face that seemed to express permanent judgment about everything it observed. Its eyes were large, yellow and absolutely empty of anything resembling mercy. It was sitting perfectly still, watching, calculating. "Hello there," Marcus Fenwick said cheerfully. He was a tall human with what I believe they call a beard, which is fur they grow on their faces for reasons that remain unclear to xenobiologists. "I am here to register Biscuits for the companion creature competition." I stared at him. Then I stared at the cat. Then I stared at him again. "Biscuits," I said. "That is her name, yes. You named a Category 7 predator, Biscuits. She responds to it very well. Watch." He tapped on the containment unit. "Biscuits, Biscuits, look at the nice judge." The cat's eyes shifted toward me. They did not blink. They simply assessed. I felt like I was being measured for something, and I did not want to know what. "She likes you," Marcus said. "How can you tell? She has not tried to escape and attack you yet." This was meant to be reassuring. It was not reassuring. I consulted my tablet once more, searching desperately for some regulation that would allow me to refuse entry. Mr. Fenwick, I must inform you that Earth felines are classified as Category 7 organisms. They are on the banned list for companion creature exhibitions. Ah, he said, nodding. I thought that might come up, but if you check Subregulation 47, Section C, Paragraph 8, you will find that any species can be entered into competition if it has been certified by a licensed xenobiological safety expert as non-threatening in controlled environments. He handed me a data chip. I loaded it into my tablet. The certification was legitimate. Dr. Lenamos, one of the most respected xenobiologists in 3 sectors, had personally examined this cat and declared it, quote, unlikely to cause significant harm under exhibition conditions, provided basic precautions are maintained. Unlikely. She used the word unlikely. The containment unit stays on, I said firmly. Of course. At all times. Naturally. And if that creature so much as looks at another contestant in a threatening manner, Judge Mendish. Marcus interrupted gently. Biscuits is a 14-year-old cat. She sleeps 18 hours a day. Her favorite activity is sitting in warm spots. Her second favorite activity is ignoring people. She is not going to cause trouble. As if to demonstrate, Biscuits yawned. Her mouth opened to reveal rows of small, sharp teeth, designed by evolution for tearing flesh from bone. Then she closed her eyes and appeared to fall asleep. I should have trusted my instincts. I should have found some other regulation, some obscure rule that would have allowed me to send this human and his tiny apex predator back to wherever they came from. Instead, I stamped the registration form approved. Welcome to the Galactic Pet Exhibition, I said, without enthusiasm. Thank you, Marcus said, beaming. Biscuits and I are very excited. Biscuits did not look excited. Biscuits looked like she was planning something. But I told myself I was being paranoid. She was just a cat. A small, fluffy, completely harmless cat. I was such a fool. The exhibition hall was magnificent, as it was every year. The main arena could seat 15,000 spectators, with holographic projectors that allowed even the beings in the highest levels to see every detail of the competition. The competitors' staging area was behind the arena, a vast space filled with preparation stations where owners could groom their pets and practice their routines. I made my rounds through the staging area, inspecting the entries. There was the usual assortment of excellence. Madame Zelix from Vithari 6 had brought her luminescent serpent, a creature that could produce light patterns, complex enough to qualify as poetry in several cultures. Ambassador Koth from the hegemony had entered his symbiotic crystal formation, a beautiful arrangement of living minerals that responded to music by rearranging itself into artistic shapes. And then there was Councilor Vithari. Oh, Vithari. Where do I even begin with Vithari? She was a primarch of the Orthani sovereignty, which meant she was fantastically wealthy, impossibly arrogant, and convinced that the universe existed primarily to admire her. She had won the exhibition 3 years running with her prized Nebulon, a gaseous entity named Perfection. Yes, she named it Perfection. And before you ask, no, she did not see anything wrong with that. Glorvak, she said, sweeping toward me in robes that probably cost more than my annual salary. I trust we will not have any irregularities this year. The judges understand that Perfection is, once again, the superior entry. The judges will evaluate all entries fairly and without bias, I said, because that was the correct thing to say, even though we both knew Perfection would probably win anyway. The creature was genuinely impressive. It could shift through 17 different color spectrums and produce harmonic vibrations that induced feelings of peace and joy in most carbon-based life forms. Vithari smiled in that way she had, the smile that suggested she was tolerating my existence out of sheer generosity. Of course, fairness. Yes. She glanced around the staging area. I understand we have a human entry this year. How delightful. I did not realize we were allowing zoo exhibits to compete. All registered entries that meet safety requirements are permitted, I said carefully. Safety requirements. She laughed. And it was not a kind laugh. I have read about Earth creatures, Judge Mendish. They are barely domesticated, violent little things. I am sure the human means well, but this is a serious competition. Perhaps there is a more appropriate venue for whatever it has brought. The entry has been certified by Dr. Wilena Moss. That actually made Vithari pause. Dr. Moss's reputation was unassailable, even for Orthani aristocrats. Well, she said after a moment, I suppose we shall see. I look forward to perfection demonstrating what true elegance looks like compared to some human's primitive beast. She swept away, robes trailing behind her dramatically. I watched her go and felt a small, petty part of myself hoping that somehow, against all odds, the human's cat would wipe that smug expression off her face. Then I remembered what the cat actually was, and I immediately regretted the thought. The competition began at the 16th hour, and the arena was packed. Beings from across the sector had cad to watch, filling every seat with a riot of colors, shapes, and appendage counts. The atmosphere was electric, literally electric. In some cases, the Zanari delegation generated static fields when excited. I took my place at the judges' platform along with Yentish and our third colleague, a Mathanian named Doc, who communicated through scent patterns that were translated by a device around his thorax. The three of us would evaluate each entry based on appearance, temperament, special abilities, and the bond between creature and owner. The first hour proceeded smoothly. The luminescent serpent performed beautifully, weaving through the air in patterns that drew gasps from the audience. The crystal formation responded to a hegemony aria, with an arrangement so elegant that even Yentish, who hated everything, admitted it was acceptable. Vithari's Nebulon was spectacular, of course. Perfection drifted through the arena, cycling through colors that represented emotions in the Orthani language, telling a story of love and loss that moved many spectators to tears. The bond between Vithari and the creature was genuine. Say what you will about the Councilor, and I have said plenty, but she truly loved that Nebulon. And then it was the human's turn. Marcus Fenwick walked into the arena carrying the containment unit. The crowd's reaction was immediate, murmuring, pointing. Several beings in the front rows actually moved back, as if they expected the unit to explode. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations, the announcer said, our next entry is Biscuits, a Terran feline, presented by Marcus Fenwick of Earth. The cat was visible through the transparent walls of the unit, still sitting in that same position, still watching. The arena's holographic projectors magnified her image so that everyone could see, and 15,000 beings got their first close look at an Earth cat. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. It is small, Yentish whispered to me. Yes. And fluffy. Yes. Is it supposed to look that angry? I believe that is just its face. Marcus approached the judge's platform. Good evening, he said pleasantly. Biscuits is honored to be here today. For her presentation, I would like to demonstrate the unique bond between humans and felines, as well as some of her natural abilities. Natural abilities, Doc's translator rendered in a worried tone. Should we be concerned? Not at all, Marcus said. May I open the containment unit? Every judge tensed. In the audience I saw several beings preparing to flee. The unit stays sealed, I said. I understand your concern, but I cannot properly demonstrate our bond with Biscuits inside a box. Dr. Moss's certification allows for supervised release in controlled conditions. This arena qualifies. I looked at my colleagues. Yentish's 4 eyes were expressing 4 different variations of absolutely not. Doc was emitting a scent that his translator interpreted as profound reluctance. But the rules were the rules. The certification was valid. If I refused, Marcus could file a formal complaint, and the bureaucratic nightmare that would follow was something I desperately wanted to avoid. Fine, I said. But at the first sign of aggression, of course, Marcus deactivated the containment field. The cat did not move. For a long moment, nothing happened. Biscuits remained in the exact same position, as if she had not noticed that the barrier between her and 15,000 potential victims had just been removed. Then, slowly, she stood up. Stretched, extended each leg one at a time in that way cats do, as if reminding their muscles that yes, they are still capable of violence, but perhaps not right this moment. The audience held its collective breath. Biscuits stepped out of the unit. She looked around the arena with those calculating yellow eyes, surveying the crowd with what I can only describe as disdain. Then she sat down next to Marcus's feet and began to clean her paw. As you can see, Marcus said, felines are independent creatures. They do not perform on command like some species. The bond between human and cat is based on mutual respect. The cat stopped cleaning. Her ears rotated. She was focused on something in the distance, every muscle suddenly tense. Biscuits? Marcus said. The cat's tail puffed up to twice its normal size. A low sound emerged from her throat, a rumbling growl that the arena's acoustics amplified into something that made my internal organs feel uneasy. Biscuits. No. The cat ignored him completely. I followed her gaze and saw what she was looking at. On the far side of the arena, in the competitor holding area, was Councilor Vithari's Nebulon. Perfection was drifting peacefully in its enclosure, completely unaware that it had attracted the attention of a small orange predator. Biscuits crouched. Her hindquarters wiggled. Marcus, I said sharply, control your animal. I am trying. Biscuits, no. Bad girl. Very bad girl. The cat's wiggling intensified. And then she launched. I have never seen anything move that fast. One moment she was on the arena floor, and the next she was a streak of orange fur rocketing toward the Nebulon enclosure at speeds that should not have been possible for something with such short legs. The crowd erupted. Screaming. Panic. Beings trampling each other to reach the exits. The Vithari delegation generated so much static that 3 nearby spectators had their fur stand on end. Security drones activated, but they were too slow. Biscuits reached the enclosure in seconds, squeezed through a gap that should not have been large enough for her body, and collided with perfection in a whirlwind of fur and gas. Vithari was shrieking, not words, just shrieking. A high, continuous sound that I am fairly certain cracked crystal somewhere in the arena. I watched in horror as the cat and the Nebulon tumbled across the competitor holding area, knocking over grooming stations and sending other owners diving for cover. Biscuits was swatting at perfection with her paws, claws extended, while the Nebulon flickered through colors so rapidly that it started to strobe. Get it off! Vithari screamed. Get that monster off my perfection! Security finally arrived. 6 drones surrounded the battling pair, but none of them seemed to know what to do. Nebulons were gaseous. Cats were solid. How do you separate those two things without harming one of them? Marcus pushed through the chaos, calling for his cat. Biscuits. Biscuits. Come here. Leave the nice gas cloud alone. The cat completely ignored him. She was having the time of her life. Her purring was so loud that it registered on seismic monitors. I pinched the bridge of my snout. This was a disaster. An absolute, unmitigated disaster. The most prestigious pet exhibition in the sector had devolved into chaos because one small earth creature could not resist attacking something shiny. The certification had said, unlikely to cause significant harm. Unlikely. I was going to have words with Dr. Elena Moss. Strong words. Alien pet show banned aggressive species. Human brought his cat. Part 2. The chaos lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I know this because the arena's security system logs everything, and I would later have to review those logs 17 times while filling out incident reports. 4 minutes and 37 seconds of absolute pandemonium. Biscuits had attached herself to perfection like some kind of furry parasite, swatting and biting at the gaseous entity while purring loud enough to vibrate the floor panels. The Nebulon, for its part, was cycling through colors so fast that it had started to cause seizures in photosensitive species. 3 luminari had to be escorted to medical facilities. 2 crystallians shattered their outer shells from stress. And Vithari. Oh, poor Vithari. She stood at the edge of the competitor holding area, her expensive robes disheveled, her carefully maintained composure completely destroyed, screaming words that I am certain violated several diplomatic protocols. Get that thing away from my perfection. I will have it destroyed. I will have its owner imprisoned. I will declare war on Earth. That last one was technically within her authority as an Orthani Primarch, which made me very nervous. Marcus finally managed to reach his cat. He did something that in retrospect was either incredibly brave or monumentally stupid. He reached directly into the swirling mass of fur and gas, grabbed Biscuits by the scruff of her neck, and pulled. The cat came free with a sound like tearing fabric. She dangled from Marcus's grip, still purring, still kneading the air with her paws, as if she was trying to grab the Nebulon from a distance. Her eyes were huge. Her tail was puffed. She looked absolutely delighted. "Bad girl," Marcus said firmly. "Very bad girl, Biscuits." The cat meowed at him, just a small, innocent sound, as if she had not just assaulted a councillor's prized companion creature in front of 15,000 witnesses. Perfection drifted away from the scene, its colors slowly stabilizing into shades of traumatized purple and distressed gray. The Nebulon was physically unharmed, as far as anyone could tell, but it was clearly shaken. It kept forming shapes that in Orthani visual language translated roughly to "what just happened, and please make it stop." I descended from the judge's platform, my legs feeling unsteady. Security drones surrounded Marcus and his cat, weapons trained on the tiny predator who had single-handedly turned the Galactic Pet Exhibition into a war zone. "Mr. Fenwick," I said, and I was impressed by how calm my voice sounded, considering I was contemplating several different ways to have him ejected from the sector. "Please, explain what just happened." "She got excited," Marcus said. "Excited. Cats have a strong prey drive. When they see something that triggers their hunting instincts, they react. Perfection was drifting around, changing colors, moving erratically. To Biscuits, it looked like a toy." "A toy?" Vithari snarled, pushing through the security cordon. "That monster attacked my Perfection because it thought my companion was a toy." "I am very sorry, Councilor. Biscuits did not mean any harm, she was just playing." "Playing?" Vithari's voice hit a pitch that made my auditory membranes ache. "That creature is a menace. It should be destroyed, incinerated, fed to a black hole." Biscuits looked at Vithari and meowed again. Then she yawned, showing all of her teeth, and began cleaning her face with one paw. The absolute audacity. I held up my hands before the situation could escalate further. "Councilor, please, let us handle this through proper channels. Mr. Fenwick, your entry is disqualified. You will take your animal and leave the arena immediately. There will be a formal inquiry into this incident, and you may face charges of reckless endangerment." "That seems fair," Marcus said, nodding. He did not seem particularly upset. If anything, he looked like he had expected this outcome from the beginning. "Fair?" Vithari was not satisfied. "He should be arrested. That creature should be euthanized." "The cat did not actually harm anyone," Yentish pointed out, approaching from the judge's platform. "Perfection appears to be physically intact. There were some injuries in the crowd, but those were caused by the panic, not the cat directly. It attacked my Nebulon. It played with your Nebulon. There is a difference, legally speaking." Vithari looked like she wanted to argue, but Yentish was right. Under galactic collective law, the cat's actions constituted a disturbance, not an assault. Annoying, yes. Criminal, no. "Fine," Vithari said through clenched teeth. "The human takes his beast and leaves. But I want it on record that I am filing a formal protest against allowing Earth creatures in any future competition. They are unpredictable. They are dangerous. They have no place among civilized species." She turned and swept away, her robes somewhat less dramatic now that they were covered in orange fur. Marcus put Biscuits back in the containment unit. The cat settled down immediately, curling into a ball and closing her eyes. Within seconds, she appeared to be asleep. 18 hours a day, he had said. She sleeps 18 hours a day. Apparently the other 6 hours were reserved for causing interstellar incidents. "I really am sorry," Marcus said to me quietly. "I thought she would be calmer. She is usually very well behaved at home." "At home," I repeated. "On Earth, the death world. It is not that bad. Your planet has creatures that can kill with a single touch. You have insects that build colonies of millions. You have fish that can strip a body to bone in minutes. Your own species spent most of its history finding new ways to harm each other." Marcus considered this. Fair point, but Biscuits really is a sweetheart. She just gets excited sometimes. I looked at the cat peacefully sleeping in her containment unit, looking for all the world like a harmless ball of fluff. Get out of my arena, I said. He left without further argument. I watched him go, carrying that tiny orange nightmare, and I felt a strange mix of relief and something else. Something I could not quite identify. The exhibition resumed after a 30-minute delay for cleanup and crowd management. The remaining entries performed their routines. Judges assigned their scores, and eventually, a winner was declared. It was not Vithari. Her Nebulon was too traumatized to perform properly. Perfection kept flickering into distressed colors halfway through its routine, and at one point it formed a shape that translated to, "Is the orange thing gone?" Vithari was furious. She accused the judges of bias. She threatened legal action. She declared that this was the worst day in the history of the Orthani sovereignty, which seemed like an exaggeration for a species that had survived 3 galactic wars. The winner was Madame Zelix's luminescent serpent, which was a fine choice. The creature was beautiful and talented, and had not assaulted anyone during the competition. But here is the strange thing. As the crowds filed out of the arena, as the cleanup crews began their work and the security team stood down, all anyone could talk about was the cat. Not the serpent, not the crystal formation, not even perfection, despite its dramatic victimhood. Everyone was talking about Biscuits, the tiny Earth predator that had disrupted the most prestigious pet exhibition in the sector, the orange and white ball of fur that had terrified a Nebulon and enraged a Primarch. Did you see how fast it moved? I heard one spectator say. It was like a missile with legs. And the sound it made, said another, that rumbling. I felt it in my bones. The human just grabbed it, with his bare hands, like it was nothing. I realized then what I had been feeling earlier. That strange emotion I could not identify. It was fascination. The weeks following the exhibition were complicated. Vithari filed 17 separate complaints against Marcus Fenwick, the Galactic Pet Exhibition Committee, Dr. Lena Moss, and something called the Concept of Earth in general. Most of them were dismissed. A few resulted in minor fines. One led to a revision of the safety certification process that would make it harder for Category 7 creatures to compete in the future. But the real surprise came from the public reaction. The footage of Biscuits attacking perfection went viral across the sector. Within days it had been viewed over 8 billion times. Commentary channels dissected every moment. Xenobiologists published papers on feline hunting behavior. Fashion designers released a line of orange and white clothing they called the Biscuits collection. And everyone wanted to know more about cats. My office was flooded with inquiries. What were they? Where did they come from? How did humans manage to live with them? Were there others? Could they be purchased? That last question concerned me greatly. I contacted Marcus Fenwick through official channels, partly to inform him of the ongoing investigations, and partly because I genuinely needed to understand. Why do you keep them? I asked during our video call. He was in his dwelling on Earth and I could see Biscuits sleeping on a piece of furniture behind him. These creatures, they are clearly dangerous. They attack without warning. They cannot be controlled. Why would any species willingly share their home with something like that? Marcus smiled. It was the same pleasant expression he had worn throughout the exhibition, as if the chaos his pet had caused was merely an amusing inconvenience. Judge Mendish, can I ask you something? Do you have a companion creature? I do not. Have you ever had one? No. I have never seen the point. They require care and resources. They create mess and disorder. The costs outweigh the benefits. That is a very logical way of looking at it. Thank you. It is also completely wrong. I felt my spines bristle at his bluntness. Excuse me? Companion creatures are not about logic. They are not about benefits and costs. They are about connection. About having another being in your life that depends on you, and that you depend on in return. Even if that being is difficult. Even if it causes problems. Even if it occasionally attacks a gaseous life form at a prestigious galactic competition. He glanced back at Biscuits. The cat had woken up and was watching the screen with those yellow eyes. Cats chose to live with humans thousands of years ago, Marcus continued. They were wild creatures, predators, and they decided that being near us was better than being alone. They have never been fully domesticated, not really. They stay with us because they want to. Every day Biscuits could walk out my door and never come back. But she does not. She stays. She sleeps on my bed. She sits on my lap when I am reading. She brings me dead things she has caught because she thinks I am a poor hunter who needs her help. That is disturbing. It is love, Judge Mendish. A strange, complicated, sometimes inconvenient love. But love nonetheless. I did not know what to say to that. The concept was not foreign to me. I understood affection between beings, but the idea of loving something so unpredictable, so inherently chaotic, seemed irrational. And yet, I found myself thinking about it long after the call ended. 3 months after the exhibition, I received a message from Marcus Fenwick. It was short. Just a few sentences and an attached image. Judge Mendish, I thought you might like to know that Biscuits had kittens. There are 5 of them. One is orange like her. The others are various colors. They are healthy and causing approximately the expected amount of destruction. I have attached a picture. I hope you are well. I opened the image. 5 tiny creatures, so small they could fit in the palm of a human hand, piled on top of each other in a sleeping heap. Their eyes were closed. Their ears were folded. They looked completely harmless. I knew better, of course. I knew exactly what those tiny things would grow into. More chaos, more unpredictability, more potential interstellar incidents. I stared at the image for a long time. Then I did something that surprised even myself. I sent a reply. Mr. Fenwick, thank you for the update. I am pleased to hear that Biscuits and her offspring are well. I have a question that I hope is not inappropriate. When the kittens are old enough to leave their mother, would it be possible to acquire one? I find myself curious about the experience of companion creature ownership. I am aware this is unusual. I am aware there are risks. But your words about connection have stayed with me, and I believe I would like to understand them better. Please let me know if this can be arranged. His response came within the hour. Judge Mendish, I would be honored. There is an orange one that I think would suit you. She is feisty, independent, and has already knocked over 3 separate objects for no apparent reason. I believe you two will get along perfectly. I will begin the export paperwork immediately. 4 months later, a containment unit arrived at my dwelling. Inside was a small orange kitten with yellow eyes and an expression of permanent disdain. She looked at me through the transparent walls with what I can only describe as judgment. Hello, I said. She meowed. I opened the unit. She stepped out, looked around my dwelling, and immediately knocked a data tablet off my desk. Then she walked to a warm spot near the heating unit, curled into a ball, and went to sleep. I should have been annoyed. I should have questioned my decision. I should have wondered what madness had possessed me to bring a Category 7 predator into my home. Instead, I sat down next to her and watched her sleep. Your name is Chaos, I said quietly. It seems appropriate. The kitten purred. It was, against all logic, the most comforting sound I had ever heard. Councilor Vithari never quite recovered her prestige after the exhibition. Perfection won the following year's competition, but the victory felt hollow. Everyone still remembered the cat, the tiny orange predator that had humiliated her without even trying. She attempted to have cats banned from the entire Galactic Collective. The motion failed. It turned out that too many beings had become fascinated by Earth felines, and port requests had increased by 3,000%. Breeders on Earth were struggling to meet demand. The universe had discovered cats, and the universe, against all reason, had fallen in love. I understood, eventually. It took time. It took patience. It took replacing 17 data tablets, 2 pieces of furniture, and 1 very expensive communication array that Chaos decided looked better on the floor. But I understood. There is something profound about sharing your life with a creature that does not need you, that chooses to stay not because it must, but because it wants to, that brings chaos and disorder and unexpected joy into an existence that had become too orderly, too predictable, too safe. Marcus Fenwick was right. It is love. Strange, complicated, inconvenient love. But love nonetheless. I still judge the Galactic Pet Exhibition every year. I still evaluate entries based on appearance, temperament, special abilities and the bond between creature and owner. I still maintain the highest standards of fairness and objectivity. But now, when I go home after each competition, there is a small orange predator waiting for me. She knocks things over. She ignores my commands. She brings me dead insects she has caught from the ventilation system because she thinks I am a poor hunter who needs her help. And every night she curls up on my sleeping platform and purrs. It is, without a doubt, the best sound in the universe.